RM Willams is still as durable as a pair of his famous elastic-sided boots. Reg, everybody knows you for RM Willams, the outfitters, if they know you at all. Can you tell us how it got started?
Well, when the bottom dropped out of the world sort of thing in 1929, I built a log hut in a place called Etalowie Gap in the Flinders Ranges. And one day while I was camped there, a fellow came along driving a pair of mules with a buggy and pulled up and asked could he camp here. I said, well, I don't own it, you can camp where you like. The only name I ever knew of him was Dolomec. That was what he told me his name was. And I suppose he should take the credit for having pioneered the boots because it was his idea. And he was probably more capable than I was. But we finished up making a pair of boots and they were quite unique. But the fact that they were unique, one piece of leather moulded to make a boot instead of a lot of pieces, took the imagination of the bush people, and they became very popular with the bushmen who liked the idea of bush boots being made by bushmen for bushmen. It took on, and you know, I suppose from that there's been 1 million pairs sold or more, eh?
This pair of boots, they've been through this flood and you see you can screw them up, do what you like, you can't destroy them. We haven't been aware a long time yet, but these boots are made for people who are specialists, someone who expect them to last. And
you can screw a boot up like that, it's good.
Well, you can't tear it to bits anyhow. The point is it's got to last a long time, that's what they stop and pay for. We give them a good product.
I know that a woman came to me one time and she said, I need a job. I said, well, I can hardly keep myself. What can you do? And she said, I can make trousers. I said, all right, well, you make trousers. And she made some trousers and she's still alive. She pioneered the trouser business. And I suppose we've made a few million of those too since then.
The original factory in the Adelaide suburb of Prospect turned out an ever-growing range of outback supplies. And for many years, the RM Willams Bush catalogue told its old-fashioned, no-nonsense message of stockman's clothing and saddlery made to last a lifetime. Reg Willams, the down-to-earth bushman, was given his products the stamp of authenticity and drawn enormous loyalty from those he's employed.
How's Ellie? How's your boy?
All right.
How's he going?
All right. The last year after this year.
Last year only? And you've done it all yourself?
Oh, but working out of Williams.
Business for Reginald Murray Willams was built on personal contact with his customers. This was the period of mail-order shopping, when goods were made and sent off with a little note and the account wrapped inside. Boots, shirts, trousers and tackle, all individually packed and mailed to outback stations and country towns, often in the remotest parts of Australia. Tell me, if you can, what your earliest memory as a child was.
The place where I was born was probably the coldest place in South Australia. But we were... my father was as a horseman. He had to supply teams to the people who worked the agricultural implements and carted the wool and that sort of thing. So that horses were our life. And my job was running in the horses, and I remember I used to get on a post and get on a horse and put my hands in the mane and run the horses into the morning. That's what I remember, the cold mornings.
So horses really were in your blood right from the very beginning, weren't they?
Yes, horses are still a very big part of my life. riding horses and sulky horses and working horses, and there were horse sales 2 or 3 times a week, and there were blacksmith shops on every corner, something like there are petrol stations now. So horses and things associated with horses were the main business, the main subject of conversation.
Can you tell me what qualities do you most recall about your parents, your mother and your father?
Well, my father, of course, had very little other interests than his horses, but he had very solid beliefs. I suppose something that he got from his people, because there were no newspapers. I never saw him read a book. But my father had very high standards of behaviour. He always insisted that we walk the world with some character and, behave well. I don't think he ever preached anything other than that to us, though.
And your mother, what do you think you got from your mother?
Oh, my mother had different ideas altogether. She, I know that she had a big old family Bible stacked away in the back room, and we never opened it, but it was always there, like the voice of God sort of thing. We often wondered what was in this Bible, but we never looked at it.
Do you remember them both with affection, with gratitude?
Yes, I think most children get a bit rebellious before they ever get around to valuing what their parents were, but my parents had very high standards, and I look at them with great respect. Looking back on them now, they were people of high regard.
Mm. You've got a phenomenal memory for things, for dates and places, and yet your record at school wasn't a happy one, was it? You left school very young.
I was a bit unfortunate. My sister, when she was 6, was sent to school, and I was only 4, and I was sent to sort of help her go to school, and had to drive a buggy, of course, or a sulky. And because I was too young, I probably never caught up. But the things that I learned in that little bush school, where there was only about 7 or 8 children, was the way in which the teacher taught us by rote. For instance, the tables were all sung. The days of the months of the year were all sung. And I still remember the tunes, and probably the best education anybody could ever have would be to learn everything like that by rote.
Give it a 3 times table and sing it.
1 is 2, 2 2s 4, 3 2s is 6. Yes, I know them all, right up to 12 times table. When I go to schools now, I find that even the teachers can't do the tables. If somebody asks me what 12 times 12 is, I know it's 144 straight away, because that's the way I learned it. And that's the best education you can have, something that sticks in your mind.
You left school very, very young.
Young, because I couldn't keep up, and I didn't fit in. So, and much more, the teachers in those days had a habit of beating the education into you with a cane, and then that didn't go very well.
Can you remember why you left home and to go bush? What was the reason?
Oh, I think every boy in those days wanted to get away to have a go at something. And
your father wasn't very happy though with that, was he?
Well, he just said, you're too young, son. And I said, well, I want to go, Dad. And he said, oh, you know what the old book says? He says that you should honour your father and mother. I said, well, I'll be an honour to you, Dad. He didn't like that part of the interpretation of it. quite unique. He would just go up and throw his arms around them and treat them as brothers and sing a song to them and that sort of thing, and they accepted him either being mad or good, a bit of both. And, you know, we got quite friendly with the Aboriginals, and I enjoyed hunting with the boys and learning to throw a spear and a boomerang and that sort of thing. So I enjoyed that side of living with the Aboriginals. I stayed with him for 3 years, but he was a very religious man, but he didn't know much about his religion. More of a Salvation Army type, you know, sing a song and beat the drum. But it was a good way of bringing religion to the Aboriginals. I'm sure there's still people out in the musk graves and that sing Bill's songs.
Did you find it a bit strange, though,